Community Chronicles Radio, brought to you weekly by Gannon University's Erie Technology Incubator, in partnership with the Corey Higher Education Council. The Erie Technology Incubator, located at 900 State Street, works in the entrepreneurial ecosystem and provides technical assistance through the entrepreneurial process. This show features members of this ecosystem and the entrepreneurs in the Erie area. This is the part where I usually say, if you want to give us a call, do so, but we can't. The phones are down, much like a lot of things right now with everything going on. I am Dr. Matthew Plotz, and I want to take a moment here and again ask for the audience's well wishes and prayers for our snowy co-host, Steph Screws. She is on the last leg of her recovery from breast cancer and is now receiving radiation treatments. They interfere with the time of the show, but we want to make sure that we let her know that we're missing her on the show and to ask all of you to stay in her corner. She is winning the fight.
Love you, Steph.
So how about this week?
How about it?
I have guests in studio. It's amazing. I got down here. Producer Joel got down here. We're all in warm and cozy in the studio.
Absolutely.
Man, what a week, right?
What a week. Yes. My snow boots that were supposed to come last Friday came on Tuesday.
There was so much going on.
So much.
Semi trucks with trains and everything. People were just stuck everywhere. It was crazy. Yeah, I was trying to get to my mother-in-law's house, and the ruts in the road were just so bad. There was no place to park to dig the driveway out.
Correct.
So it just took time.
And it was so heavy.
Yeah.
The first 2 feet were, that we got, between Thursday night and Friday was just
and then the
heavy
work that everybody's done. And people are frustrated and they're, this or that with the plows and everything. But I think they were out doing the best they could.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you couldn't keep up with it. But what I like to see is neighbors helping neighbors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. The county executives mentioned that a few times. Check on your neighbors. You can be part of it. If you don't know this, the county website and the Facebook page has these, it has like a GIS markers of where the fire hydrants are. Can't stress enough. If you have time, if you have energy, go dig out your fire hydrant. Mark it clear when you do. So I wanted to mention that today.
And if you need help, the news this morning said call 211.
Right.
If you are still in need of help.
Well, let's get to the guests here. That's the show. Not too much about the snow. Everybody knows that.
Right.
Today's first guest may be known to you as the founder of Melancholy brand, but all kinds of new information today. Please welcome to the show, Apollo Reyes. Welcome, Apollo.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here.
All right. With no Steph, I get the questions. Unless
You do.
Kathy wants to jump in, she can do that. We'd like to get the backstories of everybody that comes on the show. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you from Erie originally?
I am from Erie. I'm actually part of the first generation in my family to be born here as a U.S. citizen. I'm a proud Collegiate Academy graduate, a proud Penn State Barron graduate. I'm the first person in my family to graduate with a bachelor's degree, and I'm also a cancer survivor.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I was 17 when I got diagnosed, and I'm 25 now, and I'm thankfully still here, and I'm really proud of it, honestly.
Great to hear. So we have people come on, and I know that you have a great story to tell. Tell us about your journey as an entrepreneur.
So after having cancer at 17, I got declared cancer-free November 30th, 2017. I turned 18 the next year, and then I started Melancholy. I wanted to start something that allowed me to make art and communicate with people in fashion. I think having fashion be something that you can use to communicate non-verbally is really important, especially if you want to convey a message without, interacting verbally, if that makes sense.
It does. It does.
One of Melancholy's most noteworthy designs is the sunflower design, and it's inspired by my mother, whose favorite flowers are sunflowers. She used to tell me every day before going back to school after radiation treatment, "I hope today treats you kindly." And that is basically like the whole idea behind Melancholy, is acknowledging that you go through things and that you have feelings and that you're allowed to crumble as long as you're willing and able to do the work to build yourself back up.
And with Melancholy, what was the business? What did you actually make or manufacture?
With Melancholy, I was screen printing all my own garments, designing all my own garments for the most part, and doing pop-up events around Erie, Ohio, and Pittsburgh, where I was giving people the opportunity to have a safe space to open up about whatever they're going through, to have an unbiased ear to listen to, and also just because I really like being able to be out there to share my story and then to give people the time to feel heard as well.
And that's how we met.
Mm-hmm.
Brad and I met you at one of the pop-ups. First Saturday in November, right? The Erie Art Council had this big, huge pop-up in Perry Square, and your tent was right next to us.
I think that's where I may have first talked to you.
I think so too. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So you've kind of moved on in your thought process a little bit, and you've made the connections with the folks at the Erie Technology Incubator. Tell us about how they've been able to help you and kind of guide you. They're the sponsor of the show, so we like to get that out there about what they're able to do.
Being in the incubator, truthfully, has given me a lot of insight that I don't think I would have had access to previously. Working with Brad and Kathy has given me reassurance in being an artist, has given me reassurance in that you can be an entrepreneur and an artist. They're here to guide you, but they're not here to do the work for you. You have to be able to take the constructive criticism and go forward with it and make something with it. You have to be able to understand that they're not here to tell you how to run your business, only to advise you on how to run your business. They want the best for you. They believe in you. They want you to do something great because they see you as something great. And truthfully, like, being so young and being in the incubator and having been developing the second business, it's really taught me that when people are in your corner and they want the best for you, they're willing to support you. They're willing to show you resources. They're willing to give you everything you need so that you can make something meaningful.
I think I'm going to cry.
Is that Brad?
I'm going to jump in a little bit here, Apollo. The other thing that there's a bit of a reverse. We give advice and we direct, but again, it is a personal business choice by the owner.
Mm-hmm.
But what's been interesting to watch, this is just my sharing with everyone, that I've been able to see you rally and pull all-nighters and give it an awful lot. I think the other part of it is whether you take your own advice or somebody else's advice, inertia is such an important piece to a startup being successful. And you've shown, at least down our hallway, where you burn in, burn out frequently between a day job and your business, that you definitely have the fire in your belly to grow this business. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen I guess a growth in your entrepreneurial business journey from when you came in September to now. You're more focused. You know what you want. As Kurt Hirsch, one of our ETI directors who also was on the show previously, says, listen to everyone, follow no one. And it's appreciative to see that you do listen. And sometimes you take the advice and sometimes you put it in a parking lot for later. But when Brad was referencing the all-nighters, why were you pulling all-nighters in ETI?
So most notably, my, I guess, most proud achievement so far with the business is that I was able to make a one-of-one jacket for Vice President Kamala Harris.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I got called up by the campaign, I believe the Tuesday prior to her being announced for the Erie rally.
Mm-hmm.
My friend Hannah Oleski worked on her campaign. She and I both went to collegiate. She called me up and said, hey, how would you feel about making a jacket for the vice president? And I said, yeah, because I wouldn't say no to that, because she's already the vice president, and I think that's really cool. So I met her. I got to show her the jacket, and I think, truthfully, thinking about it all, I still kind of can't believe it really happened. But it really did happen. Mm-hmm. I got to the rally. I went to the floor of the Erie Insurance Arena, and I met her, and I shook her hand. And to be able to make the jacket led to, I think, 4 or 5 days of continuous work, round the clock, all-nighters, just chipping away to make something meaningful for the vice president.
So we haven't really talked about the name of your new business, which is Apollo's Divine Odyssey. And it's all about telling somebody's story through art and and jackets. So could you explain the process that you actually went through to make that jacket for Vice President Harris?
When it came down to starting, I started with research. So I looked up who she was, her background, accolades, positions she's held in office, her sorority, universities that she went to, and things that were just meaningful and impactful to her. Some things that I noticed were that her mother was a cancer researcher, and she had passed away from cancer. Kamala Harris is like the first woman to be in the position that she's been in throughout the offices she's held in California, along with being the first woman vice president. Her mother was an immigrant, and that was a really big part of her life and her upbringing and why she does what she does. So when it came down to creating the jacket, I wanted to make it so that it was accolades, achievements, and your story on a jacket. Mm-hmm. And I painted canvas panels, I painted her portrait, I painted a portrait of her mom with a quote above it that says, "You may be the first, but make sure you're not the last." And the whole premise of the business is to focus on sustainability, upcycling vintage wear, and then taking on clients, listening to their stories, and then translating it into wearable art so that you can go around and show everybody else how proud you are.
I want to back up on this just a little bit. I'm not so much a one politics side or the other. That's not where I go. When I talk about political analysis, sometimes I get off on a track. They needed you on the campaign because that is, I think, the secret shame of everything is that people just did not get to know her well. And to be able to tell the story and do the research that you did, if they had focused more on that stuff, I think the outcome might have been a little different. But that is really impressive that you took a research-based approach to creating the art as opposed to saying, okay, here's the things I already know about her, and then coming from it from that perspective. So the research is so important, and I really like that.
I think when
the power of the textile approach that Apollo has taken, what I was blown away by when we first sat down and chatted, he brought a mock-up product of our denim jacket, and she had put a whimsical story together. And as we're talking, I have a tendency to be very visual, and I kept seeing a patch that I thought aligned with another patch, but I'm going, that can't be me. That's got to just be style, right? And as we kept talking, I kept putting more and more of the designs on the jacket together, and I'm going, let's stop this meeting. Let's talk about this jacket. It pulled me in, and I wanted to put the whole piece together and say, tell me about this patch, tell me about this. And then we got the whole story of the jacket and the thought behind it. And I think the power of that approach is a huge business model, bursting right now in ETI. Apollo, can you talk more about how you both research and how you put these garments together in other ways?
With the patches in particular, I find them through thrifting. So I basically just, while I'm on my travels around town or wherever I go, if it catches my eye, I pick it up. And then I use that as a way to kind of add more details to the jacket. So in previous years, on my own personal projects, I've made jackets, and they all kind of have little hidden messages behind them that if you really, really get to know me, you'd know what they mean. And I really like that when it comes to the jackets in particular, because you know what it means, and it draws people to you to ask questions. They're conversation starters. It's a way to create conversation about things that maybe you wouldn't normally consider to notice or talk about.
Talk about how when you were making Vice President Harris's jacket, talk about the fact that you knew what you wanted, you couldn't find the patches, so what did you do locally? Didn't you have some?
Oh, yes. We collaborated with an individual named Trav Stewart, and he helped with doing direct-to-garment embroidery on the jacket as well. And this allowed for basically charter patches to go up one of the sleeves that allows to show all the positions that Madam VP Harris held in office in California. And then on the top of it is the seal of the United States. The other side is her university, which is Howard University in Washington, D.C. It's a historically black college/university. Another patch that was embroidered right onto the garment is her sorority. She was a part of AKA, which is one of the Divine Nine sororities in the United States that celebrates Black history and Black heritage. And then aside from that, they were just painted panels that I did myself.
Yeah.
One of them being her portrait on the front-facing jacket, and then
You did political sign.
oh yeah, Harris for president up here, and we added a button that celebrates the Apollo moon landing from the 60s.
Okay, so my next question, when we got to it, was going to talk about the name change and the process that you've gone through. So it was Melancholy brand when you started,
Yes.
at the pop-ups and everything. What brought you to Apollo's Divine Odyssey?
When it came down to this business name, I felt as though I wanted something to find me, not necessarily search for it. And everywhere I was going for a brief period of time, the name Apollo just kept popping up on different shirts, different, I guess, materials, tools, anything. And something about that really struck me, because I'm a firm believer in whatever is meant for you is already there. You just have to go find it or go get it. So when it came down to what Apollo means to me and what this business means to me, I still wanted to have art in my life. I still wanted to make. I still wanted to interact with people and to be able to meet people where they're at. So when it comes to the jackets in particular and taking on clients and listening to their stories, that's really meaningful work to me. Apollo's Divine Odyssey is about knowing what you bring to the table, knowing what you're capable of, doing the work, and also recognizing that, again, whatever is meant for you is already there. You just have to go get it. So I want to be able to have people come to me with their successes, their accolades, achievements, whatever, and make them feel important, make them feel like they're here for a reason. Having gone through cancer, having gone through a plethora of things at 17 and being 25 now, I feel like, fortunately, I know why I'm here. I know why I serve, and I know that I want to do good and create something meaningful while I'm here. Apollo's Divine Odyssey is about believing in yourself and believing in what can be and what has already been achieved and what you still can achieve.
So you have a big week coming up.
Oh, yes.
Next Friday the 13th.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Next Friday, Apollo's Divine Odyssey is going to have 6 jackets dispersed at 3 different locations for gallery night.
Oh, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 locations are City Supply, which happens to be right next to us.
Mm-hmm.
419 Artifacts, which is on 10th and Myrtle, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 1020 Collective, which is at 1020 Holland Street. And all of these jackets are going to be canvas panels or cutouts that I paint, sew onto the jacket. They're all going to be ideas that have been cooked up in my brain. And then, yeah, next Friday, they're going to be on mannequins for everybody to see and to dissect and to maybe even wear.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're all different. Like, you're not remanufacturing the same 3 jackets for each location. They're all different, correct?
Correct.
So in the metamorphosis of what you have done, we've talked a lot about jackets. Are there still T-shirts, or are you focusing in the jacket space?
I think when it comes to expanding the, I guess, things I offer, right now I really want to focus on jackets just because I am really trying to hone in on my craft and developing it and making it, I guess, cleaner, more professional, presentable. When it comes to the T-shirts and things like that, I would consider it maybe down the line when things are a little bit more established. But we'll have to get there first to figure it out.
So one of the questions, I put it on my sheet, but I stole it from Kathy, I think.
Oh, you totally did.
So, but it's a great question.
It
I
is
love
a totally great question.
So 18 to 25, and you've had this process all the way through. What advice would you give yourself from 25 back to when you started at 18? What pit in the road maybe would you let your former self know about?
I think the most important thing that I could tell myself now to then is that you're still here and you have a reason for being here. You're here to create something meaningful, and you aren't a singular idea. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to try new things. You are an artist through and through. And while it may be hard to be an artist some days, if it means something to you, then it's worth it. If you're willing to do the work, you already know what you're capable of. You already know what you bring to the table. Keep doing the work, because it's going to pay off. You know what you want. Just keep going. You believe in yourself enough to believe in the vision that you have. So keep going forth, even if it's uncertain, because you have to. You have to keep going. You have to get up. You have to keep making, because no one's going to see your art if you don't make. No one's going to see what you do if you don't put yourself out there. You have to believe in something, and you have to keep going. It's going to be hard. But you know what you want, and you know it's there. Just go.
And I think that's so important, especially the one part that you said. If it doesn't work, to pivot, changing your words a little bit. And sometimes Brad and I see startups come in, especially through our beehive, and they're trying something, and, either the research that we've done for them says, hey, you need to think of something else. But, we don't say that. The research does, but to see some people pivot and keep going because they have that fire in their belly, they want to be an entrepreneur. I think that's great advice.
And just understanding that you have, this belief in yourself that, it's very true. And as long as you have that belief in yourself, the pivots are okay. You're still doing the thing that you want to do. And I know Brad and I we talked about a bunch of different things yesterday, but working with entrepreneurs, sometimes I asked him for advice because we contracted with an entrepreneur, and I feel like what they provided for us is somewhat undervalued. And that, for me in the work that we do here, that's central to everything that we're doing, getting these voices out and letting people know and what the value of these products are. So it is very important. I look so forward to talking to local entrepreneurs because our society has shifted in such a way that there's a big emphasis. Oh, do we have a Walmart? Do we have a Dollar General? Do we have all this stuff? And we were talking before the show, all of that stuff that they have there doesn't help anybody in your local community, not in the least. But the things that you're doing and the things that entrepreneurs are putting together are so important. And I'm glad you have that voice. It's important.
Yeah.
One thing that kind of registered with me when you were talking, every person that gets up and goes to work every day puts on clothing, and there is a process to that. What do they want to communicate to the people that they're working around and for? I put my logo shirt on today because I'm on the camera, and Corey Hyatt. I also have Ryan's Filled by Hops hat. We'll talk about that. But yeah, every decision when you start your day is about what you're projecting to other people, and I really like what you're doing.
Thank you.
A great point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're getting close to the end of the half hour. Told you it was going to go fast. 1 minute. Where can people find the products, and what's next? We have 1 minute. We'll have to keep the answer kind of short.
So you can find me on Apollo's Divine Odyssey on Instagram. And then when it comes to the website, it is apollo'sdivineodyssey.myshopify.com.
That's
pretty
exciting.
That's all.
Thank you, Apollo.
And if you want to see the Harris jacket, that is on Instagram and the website.
Yeah, I was going to check that out. All right. Well, we are going to be going to the news at the bottom half of the hour. We'll be back with Ryan Gaiolato on the other side to talk about things that he's been doing. Not an Erie entrepreneur, but in the space a little bit.
Okay.
And we'll get to that. You are listening to Community Chronicles Radio on 103.3 FM, 105.9 FM, and 1530 AM. See you after the break. Welcome back to Community Chronicles Radio, brought to you weekly by Gannon University's Erie Technology Incubator, in partnership with the Corey Higher Education Council. The Erie Technology Incubator, located at 900 State Street, works in the entrepreneurial ecosystem and provides technical assistance through the entrepreneurial process. This show features members of this ecosystem and the entrepreneurs in the Erie area. Today's next guest is one of the people that I got to know through Facebook. And I would define him as a helper. Ryan does not see problems, but only solutions, and I am glad to know him, and we'll get to all of the things that he's been up to and how I got to know him. I would like to welcome to the show Ryan Galiato. He is the founder of Fueled by Hops, and there's the hook, right, for me? And
Absolutely, it is.
as well as Student Loans Gotta Go. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely.
Morning, Ryan.
So let's start with the backstory, how I got to know you a little bit. Tell our audience about Fueled by Hops and the process you used to come up with the group on Facebook.
Sure. I'll keep it brief because I can talk about Fueled by Hops all day because it's really one of my passion projects. But Fueled by Hops is one of the ancillary businesses that evolved out of the craft beer boom of the, I guess, late 2010s, for lack of better terms. We are essentially at our heart and our heart and soul, we are a group of craft beer enthusiasts who have come together to kind of support the craft beer movement here in America. So got started in 2019, so we're on year 5 right now, which is kind of a really crazy to think about. But we really were birthed out of I mean, I'm just a beer nerd, right? Like that's right. Matt, I know, we kind of all are. This is what we enjoy. And, your Saturday afternoons were filled with bouncing from brewery to brewery, and you meet this person, meet that person. And you kind of built like a little group of friends along the way of these other people who did the exact same things that you did and enjoyed kind of bouncing around and checking these different breweries out. So we kind of came up with the idea of sort of pulling everybody together into one place, right? Like there was, we'd have some friends at one brewery, friends at another brewery, and it was like, hey, it felt a little distant, like we kind of needed a home where we can talk and communicate outside of the brewery. So we kind of brought it to the social media. Facebook was our place of choice, and we launched a group called Fueled by Hops, and we started with, I think, 8 members at that point in time, and we all just talked beer and shared beer. One thing we got to keep in mind is that, craft beer distribution is sort of a relatively new thing, right? It wasn't around 5 years ago. We had beer distribution, but we didn't have craft beer distribution. It was largely a thing where if you wanted to try a brewery in a different town or a different state, you had to know somebody in that town or that state that can get it for you and get your hands on it, or you had to actually drive to it to pick it up. And what we found was that Fueled by Hops kind of became a place where people can share beers and share craft beer with each other and talk about craft beers and launches and things that different breweries were doing and events. And it kind of became like just a little home for people to kind of explore this little hobby of theirs. And along the way, it kind of accidentally grew into a business for myself and my business partner, Nick. We saw, opportunity to create merchandise and events and a lot of things that can not only kind of feed this hobby and bring more people together, but also support craft beer, right? Support the breweries and help, people discover new breweries and help breweries kind of meet new people. It was kind of really became a twofold business, supporting our passion and also supporting the industry as well.
And you've done amazing work in that space, supporting the industries and getting, different beers to different people. And I could go on and on about how, and we'll get to the beer festivals and things that you're doing and how
Sure.
the ties all get made. Without you, I wouldn't know about Fourscore Brewing. And that's, Eric down there, that beer is so good that, it's just an opportunity that we got to have up here in Erie. So my next question is the tie to the Erie market? How does Fueled by Hops tie to the Erie market, and how are you working up here when you're based down near Pittsburgh?
Well, first off, Fueled by Hops is actually half owned by a Erieite, I guess. So it is, I guess, sort of an Erie business. So my business partner, Nick, does live in the Erie market. So, we do have the connection to Erie through there. But the big connection is that literally our second biggest following is in Erie. So we obviously Pittsburgh is our largest following, but Erie kind of seemed to become number two on that list. So we really have a lot of people who kind of follow the brand who are from Erie.
So, one of the coolest things and I love to tell this story because it's kind of a microcosm of what you were trying to get done and how this all worked. Back in 2020, like so many people during COVID, I lost my job. It was a job in a place of employment that I was at for 17 years.
Oh, wow.
So, when you lose your job, if you're a craft beer nerd, probably the thing you're going to do that day is, oh, you know what, I'm going to crack a beer and think about what the next moves are. So Fueled by Hops and the group and the page itself allows people to interact in ways that are, kind of new, where you may be disconnected by distance, mileage. You can connect with people. And that day, I don't remember what beer it was, but I cracked one, took a picture of it and put it on Fueled by Hops and said, hey, you know what, guys, I'm having a beer. I lost my job today. I hope everybody's great. Out of that, there was an individual, Kevin Becker, who he's actually lives down in Wheeling, West Virginia, part of this group,
Okay.
saw that. And, I don't know how to describe Kevin except that he's one of the nicest people on the planet. And
Absolutely.
Without this group, I would not know that individual, but he is one of my greatest and best friends now.
Wow,
And
that's awesome.
And this, and we talk about Fueled by Hops and how Facebook and different groups have changed the world. Just to not have that friendship would have been a shame. So I am really thankful for that particular post and the opportunity. And it's, like Apollo said, you get put into places where things just happen, and it's supposed to happen. So I'm really grateful to Ryan and everything that we have. And it's kind of weird how these things happen. There's a brewery down near Pittsburgh. We went down to see Kevin one time. I think it was just to go see him and hit some of the breweries in Pittsburgh. Brewery scene in Pittsburgh is very good. We were sitting at one of the breweries, and in walked Ryan. We had no previous.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he just walked in.
Sure.
I think you were on like a brew tour that day, I believe, and. Yeah, it was just, happenstance that, we got the founder of Fueled by Hops to walk in at that particular time. But so,
Hope he bought you a beer.
I think he did. I think I was won over by that point. But Kevin was driving. So we talk about all the great things that Fueled by Hops has done. Ryan, can you tell us about one of the biggest challenges you've had? And I know you've had some recently, and craft beer is going through kind of a thing right now.
Sure. We've had two major challenges. The first was COVID. Obviously, we launched in 2019 I think it was like May 10th of 2019 was our actual launch date. We had planned our first festival for March 14th of 2020. That was also coincidentally the same day the world shut down. So obviously that first festival of ours got whacked. And unfortunately, the first one is typically the most expensive because you have to buy all the equipment. You got to buy the tables and everything else. And typically, you buy them. The first one's the most expensive, and then you kind of start making money. And, to the 2 or 3 in, you start kind of seeing, recouping some of that loss. So we unfortunately bought a whole bunch of equipment, a whole bunch of beer, a whole bunch of everything for this festival, and it got shut down literally 2 days before the event. We literally had breweries in Pittsburgh. We had brewers in Pittsburgh in hotels waiting for the event, and it got shut down, unfortunately, because of COVID. So that was kind of the first big challenge that we were met with. And then it also created another challenge of, hey, like people can't go to breweries, right? The breweries were shut down. Like, what do we do? And we sort of pivoted and we said, okay, well, let's become the virtual tap room. People can't go to a brewery. Maybe we can kind of sort of do sort of make like kind of a virtual tap room experience for folks. And that really kind of launched the group, so out of that challenge kind of came really our biggest point of growth. And then now more recently, our second biggest challenge that we hit is, fortunately, I don't want to say the craft beer boom is going away, but obviously the interest in craft beer on a national level is starting to fall, which is making it a little bit more challenging for us to continue the to do these events and keep people interested in the the hobby, I guess.
Do you contribute that to kind of, economic factors that we have going on now? Craft beer, people that traditionally think of beer, Bud Light or a Miller Lite or something like that, craft beer is vastly more expensive than a case of that beer. Do you think it's just discretionary spending that people aren't doing anymore?
I don't think so, because people are spending it elsewhere. People aren't buying a $20 4-pack, but they're buying a $40 water cup to drink water out of, So
yeah, that's true.
The economics are there. I think a lot of it is we have to keep in mind that this boom happened 5-10 years ago, right? And life changes,
Right.
In a matter of a couple of years, a lot of things change. 5 years ago, I was a single guy, jumping around to the breweries on Saturdays. And now, I got 2 kids and big house to keep up with, and businesses, we're all growing up, and life's taking us in different directions. And I think there's also kind of a piece here where we're seeing people move to a more healthy place. So it's not, okay, I don't want to stop drinking. I want to kind of cut back on how much I am drinking to kind of focus on my health. So we're seeing, NA options, non-alcoholic options are starting to kind of pop up as a result of that. And we're seeing people kind of move in a little different direction. So I don't think it's going away. I don't think craft beer is going to go away or anything like that. But I think it's just going to look a little bit differently than what it did before. And the industry has to kind of adapt to that, as how do we kind of survive in the industry and meet people where they're at right now. And that's what we're working on as a company right now.
So I want to get to the other business that you have and discuss that a little bit, because again, this is something that touches so many people. But before we do that, what do you see as the future of Fueled by Hops in the group, and what are you working on now? I know there's something coming up.
Yeah, so right now, as far as the future of the group, I think as the heart and soul of the group is, we're always going to be this kind of place for craft beer enthusiasts to gather online and talk with each other. So that's never going to change. That's always going to be kind of the foundation of the brand. Moving forward, though, I think we're going to be kind of looking for ways to sort of bring people together without, I don't want to say a focus on beer. I mean, the beer is still kind of the heart of it. But what we're kind of finding is that our people want to just get together, right? It's not about bouncing to the breweries anymore, checking out this new brewery and checking out that new brewery, because we've already done that. It's these people have become friends, almost family. I mean, there are people in Fueled by Hops that my kids call aunt and uncle. You talked about it with Kevin. I mean, we've built friendships. I'm in weddings, as a result of Fueled by Hops. Like we are, it's beyond beer now at this point. The community has gone beyond beer. So now it's us adapting to that. So our first, we're kind of moving to more of a meetup place. So on December 14th, we're actually having our first holiday meetup.
That's awesome.
And we're going to free event, bring everybody together to the Hazelwood Brew House in Hazelwood, PA, which is, so crazy to think that, one of the best breweries in Pittsburgh is in Hazelwood, because that's really kind of a place that, you wouldn't think there would be such a well-known craft brewery, but it's so cool to see that area really starting to develop now. And we're going to have a meetup there. We're all going to kind of come together, and we're going to share cookies. So we're all going to bring Christmas cookies. We're going to have a cookie share. We are going to do our annual awards ceremony, and we also have the Fueled Hall of Fame, where we're inducting 5 members into the Fueled Hall of Fame.
That's great.
That's exciting.
That's great. Have you done any type of, this is Kathy Ryan, by the way. Nice to meet you. Makes me want to almost drink beer just to be part of this. No,
Cheers.
That's true. But have you done any type of customer discovery and asking the folks that are on the face group what they would love to see, moving forward?
Yep. And that's really kind of where we started, was going back to the group and saying, hey, what do you want? And it was overwhelming. Everybody wants meetups, hey, it's, this person, I see them on the screen, but they've become such a good friend in real life, and we want a reason to get together with them. So we're going to keep bringing that to them. And we can support the breweries along the way that way, because we're bringing, 100, 150 people at a time to these breweries. So it's kind of a nice little, I guess, shot in the arm, if you will, to the brewery.
And that's the added benefit that I'm sure you think about it, because you're a very smart guy in everything that you do, but you are an economic development Absolutely.
Yeah, for
Everywhere
sure.
you go, you're creating economics and just boosting that region. When you have people stay in hotels and do all of the things, buy the food, it's just so important. And I'm glad to know you and glad to be a part of that group. But let's get to the next, your newest venture. Student loans gotta go. Talk a little bit about that, because if
I'm
you've
very
been
interested.
if you've been to college, Kathy works at one.
Right.
Talk about getting rid of student loans in that business.
Sure. So aside from being in the beer space, what a lot of people don't realize about me is for about the last 7 years, I've been one of the nation's top student loan experts. So got into the space back in 2017, I believe, was when I kind of got into it. That was when I graduated with my master's degree with the Big Pal student loans. And I also married somebody with the Big Pal student loans and decided I need to figure this out. And there was nobody to call. There was nowhere to go. There was nothing. There was like barely any information on the internet. I'm like, what's going on? So I started reading and learning everything I could about student loans. And eventually I was working for a financial planning firm at the time. So I am a financial planner at heart. And was working for a firm, started doing, helping their people, like, because people were like, hey, we know this Ryan guy knows a lot about student loans. So they started sending people to me and I started helping them. And then the word kind of started to spread. And before I knew it, I was traveling the country, speaking at different events, for the firm that I worked for, and eventually landed my way actually in with Forbes magazine. So I'm actually a member of their loan advisory board as the student loan representative. So
Wow,
I do a lot of
congratulations.
fact checking and things like that for Forbes. Yeah, thank you so much. So, and then more recently, I just decided, hey, what the heck? I'm tired of doing student loan planning for other people. So I launched my own firm called Student Loans Gotta Go, and now I'm doing it kind of one-on-one with folks, on my own. So I saw this problem out there. Obviously, student loans, 43 million borrowers, so there's no shortage of customers for me, and wanted to kind of be not just saw it as a business opportunity, but saw it as, hey, there's not a whole lot of information out there. There's not a lot of people you can call. I want to be that person you can call for help.
Absolutely. I'm sitting here at 47, got married this past year, and I still am sitting on a pile of student loans. And, you pick away at it, but at the end of the day, it's a lot, and you master's degree. I went and got my doctorate, and thinking back now, why did I do that? I don't know, but I spent a lot of money along the way.
So we can call you doctor.
Sure.
Yeah, I get to say I am Dr. Matthew Plotz at the beginning of the show.
Makes it all worth it.
So, I guess, without giving away the secret sauce of how you do that, talk a little bit about the process of how you can help somebody with their student loans and how they can get in touch with you if they're interested listening to the show.
And I'm taking notes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I tell people I'm kind of the student loan genie, I guess, probably for easy way to put it. What I do is I help people find the fastest and cheapest way to get out of student loan debt. So sometimes the fastest and the cheapest way are the same, and sometimes they're two different manners. But I help you kind of build that best pathway out of student loan debt, whether it's using forgiveness programs. I know the Erie market is full of healthcare workers, and there's a great forgiveness opportunity for them. So I help people kind of navigate those spaces for people who are not in that space, who are, kind of like, hey, I don't know how to repay these. I help them kind of navigate all the different repayment plans and kind of come up with a good path forward. And we do it all in about a half hour. Okay. So it's typically 30 to 60 minutes. We have a game plan knocked out for you. So I tell people, and give me 30 or 60 minutes and I will change your life. And that I have done. My literally biggest number that I've ever done was I had $882,000 forgiven for a woman in Virginia. So I don't know. We launched the business about a year ago. I think we've done about 450 student loan plans in that time period, maybe a little bit more. We've kind of lost count at this point. So it is a huge problem, but what we're finding is people come to us with a lot of anxiety. They're scared, they're worried, they don't know what to do, they don't know where to turn. And what we find is, give us 30, 60 minutes of your time, you'll walk away feeling so much better about your student loan plan. Some people we help save a bunch of money, some people it's no money, but regardless, you're going to know if you're on the right track or not. We'll help you find the best track.
And again, the timing of you opening this and getting to this. Think about COVID, I think people, they kind of compartmentalize their lives. And during COVID, they said, don't worry about your student loan. And we all sat there and, we don't have to months of no payment. And then, that anxiety hits because the government was, and, this is the mechanism of government and that's how it works. They said, no more. You got to start making your payments again. Now, if you're somebody that had $800,000 in student loan debt, that is, I can't imagine what the payment was. My God,
that's more than a house.
I can't remember. It was closer to about $4,000 a month.
Oh my gosh.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I work for a nonprofit, also
do
public service loan forgiveness. But my goodness, I'm still not there on the payments, but wow, $4,000 a month. I can't even imagine. I'm almost speechless.
Yeah, I can't either. Yeah. So, speaking hypothetically, Ryan, do you want someone to call when they're currently in school and their loans are on hiatus and wait until you're gearing up after that 6 months being in the workforce, or do you suggest people call you even if they're say, I don't know, med school after undergrad and master's?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good idea. If you're in school, there's not a whole lot you can do. But once you're in that grace period right out of school, that's when you really want to start kind of getting your act together. Okay. Especially if you're coming out of med school. Yeah, especially I deal with a lot of residents. So a lot of resident doctors, we kind of help you sort of get on that repayment plan because your first year residency, you're not making a ton of money, but you have this huge student loan burden. So we kind of help you sort of navigate that and kind of get you on a path to either forgiveness or aggressively paying them down. But right now, what I wanted to mention was, we're anticipating a huge bump in business next month. And that's, when right now the government's new SAVE plan's currently having some legal challenges around it. The future of it is looking relatively bleak. We're going to find out in the next couple of weeks here what the future of the SAVE plan looks like. But there are millions of people on the SAVE plan, and it is very likely that the SAVE plan is going to go away, which means millions of people next month, or the next couple of weeks, I should say, because it could happen any day now, but I'm anticipating it to happen in January. Millions of people are going to be scrambling to find a repayment plan. So we want to kind of make sure that I'm out there as a resource of, hey, if you're one of those folks, please check out studentloansgottago.com. That's my website. You can book a session right through that portal, kind of get right on my calendar, and we will help you kind of navigate that chaos at this point.
What is the SAVE plan, Ryan?
So the SAVE plan is the government's new income-driven repayment plan. It was enacted back in 2023.
Oh.
And it was created by the Biden administration. It was a way to kind of get people. It's with student loans, you can either pay back based on the current balance, or you can pay back based on your current income. And this was really one of the ones. This was an income-driven repayment plan, and it was one of the most favorable plans. So it was. It came out. It became very popular very quickly. And unfortunately, there's some courts now who think that it may have been illegally created. So there's some legal challenge to it, where they're trying to make it go away. So we're anticipating that probably is going to happen next month. So that's going to kind of create a little bit of chaos in the world of student loans, as if there's not enough. Right. Throw a little bit more.
And this is crazy to me because I believe that this problem cuts across the party lines.
Oh my gosh.
This isn't a Republican Democrat thing. Look, there are voters out there that have enormous amounts of student debt. And the idea that there's one party that says, no, you just can't do anything. Was that based on the idea that like it's a percentage of your income that would leave you comfortable to leave enough space at the end of the month?
It was the SAVE plan was a percentage of your discretionary income. So they take your income, subtract some off, basically call it the poverty exclusion. And what's left there is your discretionary income, and you pay back a percentage of that. And it's either 5 or 10%, depending on the type of loans you have.
Gotcha.
So, what's the idea? We want to eliminate the amount of discretionary income that people have. That'll help the economy in tremendous ways.
Yeah.
My goodness. Mm-hmm. So one of the topics of discussion we have here on the show, Ryan, is the Erie Technology Incubator and the entrepreneurial ecosystem that we have here in Erie. First, is there anything like that in Pittsburgh? Are there any mechanisms that help new businesses come along, or was that something that you used, or is there a way that you might see that something like that could help?
Yeah, we personally didn't use anything like that, but there are tons of resources like that around here. We could definitely see where we probably could have maybe gotten some stuff accomplished a little bit quicker if we would have gone that route. I think we just did it because we didn't know what was available at the time, and unfortunately, with entrepreneurship, sometimes you find out things too late. And you say, "Oh, I wish I would have known that 2 years ago." But we definitely can see where that would have benefited the business, both businesses at the early start.
You look like you were gonna. Nope. Nothing,
Nope.
Kathy?
No,
Okay.
No,
Well,
I mean, I think congratulations, Ryan, for seeing a need and, for being the person who, people will be going to, that you are the best practice in student loans. Remember the name David Roach, David Gerard Lewis Roach. He will be calling you in 3.5 years.
Oh, hence the question.
Very cool.
Yeah, right.
Before I'm done or after I'm done?
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Really informative. I'm glad you wanted to come on the show. We are at the end of our second half hour, and here we are. Unbelievable. You got one?
Well, not a question for Ryan, but don't forget, because we had the snowstorm last week, it is Small Business Saturday tomorrow. So please go out and support all the local businesses that will be around. I know the Boston store is going to be one of the venues, as well as some of the other places around town. So please support local businesses.
All right. Well, I'm getting the wrap up here.
Ugh,
and one of the things
so
we like to
fast.
do on this show
Oh,
is
the
leave
joke.
everybody with the dad joke of the day. I had a list here. Brad had one. Let's go with Brad's. Maybe we'll read two. What bites but doesn't have teeth? Frost. It's all gonna.
Oh my gosh! But
It's all gonna be a winter theme here as we go out. Oh wait, where's that one at? I like this one. What does Frosty's mom put on her face at night? Cold cream.
Ah, good ones.
Stick around. Lath and Tina are in with the Economic Pulse. I will see you next week.
You're going to be alone next week.